Hello, everybody, and welcome to X Says. Fuck, that sucks. Let's just go with X Reviews. How about that, huh? That works. Let's go with that. X Reviews of Fate Stay Night. We're gonna be looking at the first route. This is a spoiler free talk, so if you haven't played it yet, you can watch it just fine. I'll be touching some things here and there, but don't worry, it will not be anything major. I'll be showing some images, but I'll just leave it from the first hour or so of the game, so you really don't have to worry about getting spoiled about these things. So let's get started with this X review. So first of all, I haven't even finished the whole thing, right? So, I can't speak about the whole thing, but I figured I'd do a review at least to, keep up with, my progress throughout the whole novel. Well, let me first give you all a little bit of a background of where I come from when it comes to Fate. First, I really started off really thinking that Fate was gonna be a piece of shit. Just right off the bat, right? I'm not gonna lie about that. Everything that I always saw of the fan base was always like a lot of just people being horny. And, it's fine to be horny, but it was also a lot of gotcha whales and guys, isn't it funny that Fate is showing up in the search results for these real historical figures? Isn't this wacky? Just kind of obnoxious. I always just assume the worst, if I'm being honest. But because of the influence from two friend groups that I respect a lot, I figured I should give the games a try. And I'm happy to announce that is seriously not the case that I came off of from this first route. I think this is actually really good and genuinely one of the best stories that I've read in a long time, at the very least. Until the first and really only major hurdle this game has against it, and it's the length. God, I mean, it really is something where I feel like I would recommend this to everyone except for people that really cannot take how long this is, because it is a really long read and it's just so much. And can you even blame them for it? It's like kind of a pointless endeavor to just be upset for them wanting to tell a long story, right? It's not really a fault of the story, it's more so just something that happens. But that's really all I have to complain, because from here on out, I couldn't be happier with this. First of all, just a general overlook of the story. I think it is very strong when it comes to just building up this world and building up the relationships in it. I think all of the characters come off really, really strong. And I'll do an overview over the characters real soon. But I feel like, especially when it comes to our protagonists, they really shine. And the writing on how these people feel is really interesting. So, let me go back a bit to my first impressions, let's say. One of my biggest issues was always that I was worried that Fate was gonna be a lot of really terrible anime tropes that I think are just really outdated and don't really work. Oh no, I walked in on Saber and Rin in the fucking hot spring. Oh, ay. And listen, the game has shit like that, right? But it's not like the main writing crux, let's say. It's not it's not something that is distracting. When it really does feel like it is the one that started a lot of these trends of people writing the way it is, because it feels very untouched by all of that, and it feels very genuine. It doesn't feel like it's forcing in these moments. It just feels like they happen. Like if Rin acts a little bit tsundere to you, it's not really because oh, they're determining that that's like the most popular type of girl around, so they have to include one of those in the game. No, it just feels like that's the fucking character, right? When they're putting like, ooh, look at this edgy scene that happens because one of the characters is clueless. It just feels like it's something that, yeah, the characters would absolutely do something shit like that. So it really doesn't bother me that much. And I think that's definitely one of its major strengths. The writing is generally impeccable. Of course, there are duds here and there. I genuinely can't remember off the top of my head, and I think that's the most important part of it. Second of all, one of the things that I always worry about in these types of stories is the action. See, the action can always make or break something for me, because sometimes it feels like either the action is like way too like self-indulgent or like is way too subdued. You know what I mean? Where it's like there's people that write action like, oh yeah, and the fucking characters exchange a couple of blows, but you know, it's not really important, or there's not much strategy to it. Or the characters are like doing these extravagant super moves that like destroy level places, and it's insane, and it's like just beams of light, and it's annoying. And at least in this route of this series, I can tell you that it's walking a very fine line. Are there really big moves? Yep. Are there really subdued moves where it's just like the writing is just being, you know, keeping the action going? Yeah. But that's the thing. It's like writing a fine balance. None of the battles feel like they take too long. None of the battles feel like they're overextending like your expectations when it comes to this fight. And I think that's one of the most important things about it. The writing, as far as both characters and fighting goes, is genuinely impeccable. Now, before I go to the next thing I have to say about the writing, I want to compliment the actual looks of the game, you know? You know, every now and then a portrait might look a little odd, but genuinely I can't complain too much about it. It's like the game is very beautiful, and all the illustrations done for it really look amazing, especially the backgrounds. I sometimes really love just looking at the backgrounds of scenes and like seeing like, oh my god, they drew this whole thing for this one set piece that may be showing up like 3 times or so in the story. That's crazy. Of course, they're gonna reuse it, but still, it doesn't take away how wonderful some of them look. And some of the CG, up close CG that they have, also look really, really cool, especially with the lighting they choose for it. It really makes the character stand out from their usual like standing still models, you know? Well, this leads us to our very inevitable conclusion we have to talk about, right? We have to talk about the porn. Now, I'm gonna keep it short, because listen, it's porn. It's fine, you know? I'm not exactly fucking reviewing the Axe Hamster fucking catalog, you know? This is just my opinion, but I think one of its key strengths is that it's very in character, and it doesn't take away from the whole experience. Yet at the same time, it kind of is inconsequential, so you can just skip it if you want. But I don't know. I find it, unlike a lot of sex scenes in different medias, it was definitely one of those where I could just watch it and I didn't feel cringe from it. I didn't feel like just skipping the whole thing. The writing can be a little odd in those, but you know, it's a sex scene. It's gonna be odd. It's not something most people are used to reading about. Or at least not something that people that want to read this are really into. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you're here just for the sex scenes, which honestly I think you're not getting enough for your buck here. But well, you do you, buddy. Just go on eHentai and fucking look it up, or EX Hentai. I don't know. But let me tell you a little story though. This story is primarily something that I think quite changed me about this game. See, I was just playing this game early in the morning, as you do, or just reading it. I don't know, whatever. And I was just hanging out. There was a really emotional scene going on, and I was like, "Oh my god, this writing is amazing. This is so out there." And when it came to the porn, I was expecting, that it was gonna be like little ecchi scenes, a little naked butt over here, and maybe a little titillage too over there. But I figured if there's gonna be like hard penetration, it's gonna be at the end, right? That makes the most sense to me. It's like a crescendo. But there I am, watching this little scene, right? Of something really serious going down. And I'm sure most people know exactly the one I'm talking about once I get a little bit further here. But then suddenly, like, it's just the whole game shifts. And see, the version that I'm playing has voice acting, which I don't have much to comment on. It's really good. But, I'm also not a Japanese guy, so I don't really know exactly what they're saying. But I would rather have it than not, right? Anyway, the voice acting just stops, and I'm like, what the hell? Did my game just kind of stop working on the subtitles? The fuck? And then, as I'm getting a little bit further into it, I like, okay, hold on, let me restart the game. I restarted it, come back. Then when I restarted, it's like, oh, no, it's just supposed to be like this. But I saw some shit about like unused voice lines in my version, and I was like, yeah, maybe they actually didn't get to voice act everything. Maybe this is like a deleted scene or something, which I'm not wrong, really. But as I get further, one of the characters just says, yeah, you have to fuck. And I'm like, what? And I immediately fall over. I start laughing my ass off. I was always expecting, oh, the porn is gonna start coming in the worst possible scenario. And it was even worse than that, because I had like people over on my house, and they were coming in, and they were like, oh, let's talk to everyone in the house. And I was just standing like from my window, like just looking at them come in, and I was like, this is dreadful. But I also laughing so hard because of how like insane the situation is to me, that the characters started talking like this. Because honestly, for a second there, the characters really did start to sound like a completely different characters. But eventually they went back to their usual writing. And it kept going. Just to point it out, I was laughing so hard that my roommate knocked on my door and was like, what's going on? Why are you laughing so hard? And I just, honestly, I couldn't tell him anything about it. So I was like, I just received a funny thing. And then I just closed the door in his face, right? But after that, I finally stopped laughing. I got up from the floor, and I was just like staring out at the whole thing. And then suddenly, it's like, as a fucking punchline, the game just cuts to a black screen with like, such and such character has happened terrible thing to them, right? Of nondescript origin. And I was like, huh? And then I just saw my face reflecting on the black background of my monitor. And I just couldn't take it. I just fell over on the floor and started laughing. And what an experience. Now, that's one of the many stories from this. That's definitely the one that impacted me the most. I guess I'll move on to the characters now. I genuinely want to like hold on most of the review of the characters until I finish all the routes, because I feel like it would be more fitting, you know? I'm already confirming in this one that, oh yeah, I think the writing is really good, the background and art is really good, the voice acting is really good, everything about it is really good. So let's leave out some other elements for the next review, right? But I can tell you right now that I think Shiro is a great protagonist. He definitely has some of the traits that I want for my protagonist in all of these stories. Rin is a fantastic, like, secondary protagonist, a heroine. I don't know, whatever you're gonna call her. She's great. And Saber, she's so adorable. I love her so much. I almost feel bad for Sakura because she has so little in this route, but you know, we'll wait until the third route to see how that played out. And lastly, I also want to shout out to Taiga, which, man, I really love her. I really wish she was more in the story. Maybe even more so than Sakura, to be honest. Issei, fantastic little guy. What a funny little guy. I love him. Archer, what a man. You know, when they say gay for Archer, yeah, I'm getting there. In the prologue, you start off playing Rin for a while, right? And you talk to him, and it's just like, this guy's kind of cool. I don't know, man. Kirei, yeah, he's also really cool. And I'll say, I already knew some of the stuff about the characters going into this. It's just kind of inevitable, really. You're not gonna come into this blind, right? You know who Saber is. You know about who's like the bad guy in this. At least I feel like most people do, if you're around this anime community, right? And I think that one of its strengths is you're not really dependent on those big twists. In fact, those big twists are not even treated as like that big of a deal, because the story is so much more about the strategy and this like combat that's going down, you know? And overall, I really enjoyed it. I will talk more about it in the next ones, but for now, I think this will do. I would recommend it a ton. It sucks that it takes so long. I would not recommend the anime. I haven't watched it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Not even because I'm that against the anime, because I hear, for example, that the next two parts have really good anime, even if this first one doesn't. And I'm mostly not recommending it because I think reading it is so much more interesting, and your imagination really flies off. At least mine did. And I think it's an experience that I think most people would really prefer over the anime if they gave it a chance. So yeah, that's it. I have been your judge, jury, and executioner, and this has been hopefully the first of many Axe reviews.